I don't know if you saw that rant I did where they got really mad at me on
Of course
Twitter.
I saw it. I was my porn. My
It was-
my sheets are ruined.
It's his
People were
pre-workout.
saying it was
together.
because you were dewormed that it changed you.
I know it's
Yeah.
funny, but like that's not the first rant I've ever had. There's a video from our old studio where I'm like, they went to this dude's house in Wisconsin and were protesting in front of his house. They had these same protesters set fire to a house before. And when the guy brandished a shotgun, the police came and arrested him
Yes,
from his
of
own
course.
house.
Yep.
And I was like, these people will come to your home. They will protest you. These activists, obviously. And the police will kick in your door and they will bash your teeth in. And then they're like, Tim Pool's an inch. But the reason the left got mad, it was a reaction to the right. The right was like, look at this epic rant from Tim Pool. He's like saying that the federal law enforcement went for James O'Keefe. I was surprised. You know what's really funny about this is when with that rant, the left came out angry at me. And I'm like, I was literally saying, I literally abolished the police. I was like, abolish the police! Like, the feds kicked in James O'Keefe's stores as federal law enforcement. They leaked his privileged legal communications. This is a violation of every core tenet this country is supposed to believe in.
Right.
Your privileged access to legal assistance. And then the left was like, haha, he's bad. That's fascism. And I'm like, I thought
Oh my
I was
God.
agreeing
Yeah.
with
Wait,
you.
I
on
want to
that.
ask Drew a question, Mr. Constitution. Given what you saw in Kenosha, what is your perspective on the police?
My perspective is that the police are going to have to start making some serious decisions soon, because if they're not going to side with their constitutional oaths, they are literally betraying the American people. So I think when police are getting into that type of territory, they're going to start enforcing a police state.
Yeah.
So I think right now where we are with the advent of Marxism, cultural Marxism becoming mainstream, I think the excuse when police come out and say, I'm just doing my job, is what the Nazis said. So I think right
Yep.
now that is a crime against humanity. And I think when police aren't having the will to say, you know what, I'm not going to enforce this, I'm going to continue to do my job, I think they're going to have to make that decision. But if they do that, if they decide not to and pull out of it, I think that that's something they need to consider before they become police officers. Because if you're going to take a job like that, you're going to have to be prepared to make a decision whether I'm going to obey unconstitutional or illegal edicts or mandates, or I am going to resign.
Just
Another
I just got one quick question. Given that all gun laws are unconstitutional, violate the Second Amendment, what do you think of police officers that arrest people who have guns that might be in violation of the Second Amendment, who are otherwise peaceful people?
Repeat it one more time.
Police who enforce gun laws, which are all unconstitutional, against peaceful citizens. What do you think of those police?
And speak more into the mic. Your audio's low.
Is my audio low?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just think that I think the biggest issue right now with police officers, and I've talked to many of them, I've had conversations with them, I think a lot of them are really like illiterate to the law itself. Not all of them, but every time you talk to one of them, like they're really not sure how they're enforcing the law correctly. Like they're not even aware of some of the laws themselves. And
You're just completely ignoring my question.
Yeah.
Gun laws are all unconstitutional. What do you think of police officers who enforce gun laws against peaceful citizens?
I think the Second Amendment is for all Americans.
Right. So what do you think, again, for the third time, what do you think of police officers who enforce gun laws against peaceful citizens?
I think that's just something they're going to have to decide to do, whether they're going to do it or not.
Well, what do you think of them?
That's what I think.
That they're just going to have to, you're just going to shrug your shoulders? So
They're
if a
just gonna
cop
have to make
arrests,
a decision.
so if a cop arrests someone who has a handgun illegally, who's not hurting anybody, or has some kind of red flag thing, what do you think of that police officer who puts that person in jail?
Yeah, I don't think that's a good thing.
But what do you think of that individual?
The individual?
The individual police officer, yeah.
That's what I just said, yeah.
They're evil.
Are they? Yeah, but you said that's not a good thing. You know, me burning a cake is not a good thing as well.
Yeah,
Like
I think
the
it's not a good thing.
human being, his
Very
name is
simple.
Officer
You're asking the
John.
same question over and over.
Officer John
Well,
Smith.
you're not answering it.
I just
Let
did.
me
Also not.
hold on. Let me phrase the question. There was a woman, I tell the story all the time, who was from Pennsylvania with a legal gun and drove into New Jersey.
Right.
And we'll give the cop a name. Officer John Smith pulled her over, and he said, you know, your tail light's out or whatever. And he said, do you have a weapon on you? He said, yes, I do. And he says, oh, okay. She politely informed him, but in New Jersey you can't have it. So he took her out, he cuffed her, and they tried putting her in prison for 4 years. How do you feel about John Smith?
I mean, I would have to really take a look at the
Wow.
entire situation.
Okay, that's
Well,
it.
another
I mean,
big
I'm not trying to
problem
avoid
is
anything. I just
that
don't want to say.
a lot
You
of the
just avoided
decent
it
cops are
successfully.
leaving because
No,
of the
I didn't.
vax.
There's no decent cops.
Well, I was just gonna make a correction and say
No,
Michael probably
I-
thinks there are none, but good-meaning cops, a lot of them are leaving because of the vax.
Right, you're right.
That's true.
And I disagree with Michael on that. I think there are decent cops, but I understand your point about the institution as a whole. But I think there are. I've met cops who have been they've actually sought to like stop violent criminals
Sure.
and rapists and murderers.
No question.
And I've seen these cops be like, I'm not going to stop some kid for this, that, or otherwise. I will also correct you. You said all gun laws are unconstitutional.
Yes.
What if the gun law was that you had to have a gun?
That actually was the case in America in the colonial period. And
Yeah.
if you look it up, I have an article in
Welcome
The
back.
Observer that says must pack heat, arguing for using Obamacare as a mechanism to mandate gun ownership.
Criminals aren't going to follow the laws anyways.
Well, no. So we're talking about Michael had said all gun laws are unconstitutional. My question is, what if a gun law mandated you do own a gun?
That's unconstitutional.
It is unconstitutional.
It's not unconstitutional.
Switzerland makes you do it.
I don't
That's
know.
a form of indentured servitude.
Well, hold on. I don't know if
Owning a gun is indentured servitude.
No, if you make somebody own a gun, that's indentured servitude.
Who are you in servitude to? Who?
Who's making me own a gun? I thought you were an anarchist.
I am an anarchist. The point being, it's even if I disagree with you about classifying something.
If
as
they made you join an anarchist collective to have a gun and you willfully joined it as part of a membership,
this has nothing to do with anarchism. I don't explain to me how mandating gun ownership or mandating health insurance is indentured servitude.
I mean, now you're for forced inoculations?
You didn't answer my question.
No, I'm not for
anything.
I'm not for forced insurance, and I'm not for forced gun ownership. I'm not mad at you, Michael. I'm just telling you.
I just don't understand. Can you maybe this is my autism speaking? Can you explain to me how mandating someone owning a product is indentured servitude as opposed to unlawful?
All I know is under my common sense freedom and under what I want, I don't have to own a gun
Okay,
if I don't
okay,
want
all right,
to.
wait. Let's not
Okay,
go in circles. Let's not go in circles.
Okay.
I think he was just using the phrase incorrectly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the point is like, I remember when I think it was Illinois mandated seatbelts. I don't know when they exactly mandated seatbelts, but I remember having a conversation about, do you have the right to not wear a seatbelt? Well, not anymore. You don't. And then I had a conversation from there about how you're forced. I remember when Obamacare was coming through, and people were like, "What about auto insurance? The government makes you buy auto insurance. No one cares about that." And I was like, "Actually, I kind of do. I of course would always want to carry insurance, but
And that's on a state level as well.
the idea that the government would mandate you buy a private product
And
then regulate that product to like guarantee
And
your
now
money
they use it as an example. Oh, you got to buy insurance. You got to wear seatbelts. You got to take a shot. I say, I'm more of an anarchist than Malice, I guess.
Oh, sweetheart. Oh, for
Come sit on my lap right there.
no.
Oh.
You and Blaire, right
Listen, you're no Santa Claus. I'm not sitting on that lap.
So,
You sat
so,
on
so
last
we're
week.
playing who could anarchist out the anarchists?
My book's right behind you.
Yeah, it's right here.
Michael,
Anarchisthandbook.com.
look, I watched your show. I watched Tim's. I know you're intellectual. I know you're actually genuinely smart. I respect you. I'm just saying I agree with anarchist precepts, but informing that and injecting that into the real world does not work.
I disagree.
You're out of your
Until it's scalable, until it's been proven.
It's complete. Anarchism isn't a location; it's a relationship. So this show right now is an example of anarchism
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There's a lot more anarchism than we know. Centralization is when we have government, when we have fat cat, bureaucrat, mafiosos coming in and saying, I want to cut of that. It's centralization. Decentralization is anarchy, in
and
my
I'm
opinion.
for decentralization.
Exactly. So
Right.
so you're for anarchy, and I'm for anarchy because that's the true definition of it. With no one intervening, no one forcing you to do something. That's the basic
Can I
core
just say
concept
this?
philosophies of
Can I just
anarchy,
say- I'm gonna
which
say
should
one
be
thing.
respected and talked about properly.
I'm
And
gonna
that's
say-
why I had to correct Joe
Don't leave
Rogan
me
when he
hanging.
said this was anarchy. No, it wasn't. It was
yeah,
state-sponsored
give me
terrorism.
30
Alex knows
seconds.
about that.
Give me 30 seconds. I'll shut up for 10 minutes. I promise.
That's a
I don't
lie.
believe that.
You're
That is a
liar.
lie.
You're an effing liar.
That is not true.
You're an effing liar.
30 seconds.
I would like to give everybody
Every lie detector
Get a
I know
ti-
just exploded.
Get a timer right now.
Yeah.
Just get
Just
it-
mute
get
his
a
mic.
timer.
Lydia,
I'm
just
getting
mute
a
his mic for 10 minutes.
No.
Get
No,
your,
no,
get
no.
your timer ready.
Yeah.
I want you to hear this for 2
Ready?
minutes. I'm
Yes.
going to shut up. I actually love everybody in this room. I know you all, and I really appreciate from the producer to everybody. And this has just been historic, and Joe is so amazing, and all you guys, and Tim, thank you for having me here. You're right, it is real anarchy, and it's beautiful, and I love you all, and I appreciate being here.
My favorite thing
Well,
about
thank you.
all of this was I was like, we end up the show started with us having Blaire to come on, and then Alex was like, I was like, maybe
Then
that'd
you
be
all
good.
hijacked me.
We hijacked it.
It's
But
true.
the best part was the very end when everyone's like, have you asked Joe? And I'm like, he's busy. And then Joe's like, yeah, I could probably come in. Where are y'all at? And I'm like, we're in a trailer on the side of the road.
Yeah, of course.
And so he's like,
It's a very nice
he walks
trailer,
in.
though.
It's like, it is really, really great. And I just think it's hilarious that, was it you said it, like a step down or something? Like the mighty have fallen?
Oh, yeah.
Joe Rogan coming from his massive, amazing new Austin studio to my trailer on the
But,
side
but
of the road.
Joe's not an elitist. He loves you, Tim.
No, I know. I'm just messing
awesome.
around.
He
I wanna-
always loved you, but after you destroyed Twitter with him, he puts you at the top tier.
You know what's funny though, that we had beef.
I didn't know that. Tell the story.
Like for dinner?
That's right.
I knew you'd like that one.
No, he had pork. He had pork.
Well, it's not too complicated. Joe, someone back in like during Occupy era, somebody tweeted at Joe when his podcast wasn't as big. They were like, "You got to have Tim Pool on the show," and then he tweeted at me like, "Yeah, for sure, man. Why don't you come and hang out?" And I said, "Cool." So, I was young and bright-eyed and naive, and I was kind of like, "This is Joe Rogan." This is back in 2011, mind you, so not the biggest show in the world.
You wouldn't come on my show.
But well, I didn't know who you were.
He values his time, Alex.
I remember telling Luke, "Hey, get me Tim Pool."
Well, so check it out. So I flew to LA, and once I landed, he messaged me like, "Bro, I'm really sorry to do this to you. I can't have you on the show. Something came up," and I went, I just flew out to California, and so I made the best of it. There's some protests I covered. A year later, same thing happened. Somebody tweets at Joe, like, "How come you never had Tim Pool on your show? Now it's 2012. And he was like, "Yo, we tried to make it happen. It didn't happen. Tim, what do you say? Come on the show." And I was like, "Let's do it." This time, I was like, I want to make sure we confirm this. Like, because he gave me the details before. I'm like, "Give me the details. Give me the time. Give me everything." And he does. And then so I get on a plane. I paid for it myself because I'm young and naive. And I fly to California. And then he says, "Bro, I'm so sorry to do this to you. I can't have you on the show."
Oh, my God.
Something's come up. And I was just like, all right, now I'm really mad. And I was like, dude, are you kidding me? It's like a year later, you did the same thing. And I thought to myself, I was like, look, I'm obviously mad about it, but Joe doesn't owe me any favors. Me going on his show would be really great for me. So I was just like, that's the story. And then what ended up happening, I was like, I'm not gonna be mad about it because he doesn't owe me anything, and I'm gonna focus on my thing. I'm not gonna beg him. I'm not gonna ask him, and I just went about my business. And then a couple years later, Joe just messaged me, and he was like, "Bro, I just want to let you know, like, I am really sorry about having canceled on you like that.
And now it's beautiful.
I don't want there to be any beef or anything." And I was like, "Nah, dude, there's no salt, there's no beef. Like, it was just like it happened twice in the span of a year."
But let me tell you about Joe in the old days. He was doing so much comedy almost every day, and his other jobs. We were going to do his podcast forever, and he would cancel it too. He just used to like the podcast was a side thing, and then starting about 6 years ago, he made it the main thing, and that's what happened.
Blaire,
Okay,
was there
I don't feel as bad now because there was 2 times where Joe invited me on and it didn't happen. I didn't fly out. But, and then I just checked my phone before I went on. I have a missed DM from him from 2 weeks ago asking me to come on. I'm like, why am I? Now it's my fault.
Yeah, he knew who you were. He's like, "Oh, hi, Blaire," and I was like, "Well, why aren't you on the show?"
Now here's the crazy
Joe's
story.
a sweetheart, though, man.
Here's the crazy story
You should have
about
seen us taking acid in Vegas.
you want to hear the Twitter story?
Can we hear about that
Hold on,
story?
You want to hear it? I'll tell you.
I would love that.
You guys want to hear the Twitter story? Because I don't got.
I want to hear the acid story over the Twitter
right,
story.
The
well,
acid story is more important than the Twitter
All right.
story.
I'll tell you a Joe Rogan story. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. You want to hear it later? I'll tell you later.
No. I would love to hear it
Well,
now. Can we?
is it something where you're like, maybe I shouldn't have brought that up because it's a story I
Is it
probably shouldn't
family
tell, or
friendly?
are you gonna now spill
Well,
the
the big
beans?
question is, which story should it be?
Yep. The wild one. The crazy
Which-
one.
So when you
Here's you've seen the movie like The Hangover?
Yes.
This happened before a few times. I don't remember with me, Joe, and Joey Diaz. I just remember, like, actually, you get Joe on next time, he'll tell you. But, I mean, I remember, like, 2 days later, because I was not a big, 2 days later, like, not knowing where we'd been and, like, in Vegas with him. Because he'd, like, I went out and saw some of the fights in Vegas and other places with Joe. He'd invite me, get me tickets. He was a great guy. And so I remember, like, okay, we're at ESPN and we're on air and this is going on. I'm in a control room and Joe is whatever. And like 2 days later, I'm like, what happened? Joe's like, "I'll see you later. I'm going on a plane." So it was pretty wild, man. Pretty wild. But Joe's not like that now. But he's definitely done some partying.
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you, I've sat there with Joe because now we go out. He might drink like 2 beers, and he guy's in great shape, everything. But I remember, like 2 days up with him, and he wasn't on any type of amphetamines. It was all just Joe's energy. And we're like drinking like 20 shots at like 4 a.m. up for 2 days, and like taking edibles and all this. I mean, this dude's like a thoroughbred. I mean, a thoroughbred, man.
That's why he takes the horse paste.
Yeah, that's why he takes the horse paste. So no, but Joey Diaz once, like, we're sitting there. Joey's like, eat these edibles," and Joe's like, "Ha ha, we just took acid," and I don't remember 2 days.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
my
like
gosh.
huge dough. I don't remember actually.
Any revelations, any reality shattering moments, any kind of like clarity in your life through
Part
those
of it
experiences?
was fun, except I remember, and this is to Joe's credit, this is like 15 years ago, 17 years ago. We're in Vegas. We're there 2 days before the fight, like a day after the fight. So we're there like 4 days. So 2 days before, 1 day of the fight, day after. And I just remember, I'm like, "Why don't you take the elevator to your limo?" He loved his fans so much that I remember like hallucinating on acid while Joe signed thousands of autographs because he's trying to go through the casino once they start piling up. And I remember just like days, like hallucinating for like a day of him signing autographs. It's crazy.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
See, there's like some cool story like naked chicks and stuff. It's not. It's
No.
Joe taking.
Yeah, but that's not cool. That's not the cool stuff. The cool stuff is the
It's
deeper
Joe
stuff.
taking photos.
Yeah.
Selfies with people and signing autographs.
Being selfless.
Selfless. Yeah.
So I asked Joe, and I don't know if I don't know if he gave us like a robust answer. He gave a little bit. You know, from the time I went on and we talked with Twitter, but even before that, to where he is now, how his view has changed. And I think it's fair to say, you can see in Joe a big change. So that first interview he did with Jack Dorsey was back in 2018, I guess. He was just like, let Jack say his thing and say whatever he wanted. And then he got heavily thumbs down for it. We do our show. Here we are today, and he's saying they're censoring. It's coming from the left, and that's definitive. He's seen it. I think there's two things here. For one, like Joe really started to understand and see what was going on as things got worse. But it's also that things are getting worse. I want to make sure I preface that by saying freedom, loving individuals, liberty-minded individuals are winning many battles across the board. But in the censorship stuff, as this becomes the new corporate press, it is getting worse. And I mean, I think the reality is we're not long for this world. You know, everyone's like, you know, I see the comments like, wow, Tim, you really pulled this thing together. And I'm like, yeah, but there will come a time. The cliffs are eroding, and over time, they are homogenizing what YouTube is, and they want it to be that mainstream narrative.
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, but they know
eventually the sand dumps in the sea. But let me just say this one thing, because I don't bullshit when it comes to things like this. Tim was a turning point for Joe, and I'm not going to get into our private phone calls and things, because Joe wanted to believe in the system and wanted to believe there were good guys and bad guys. And when he remember him, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but he called him. He goes, "You see what I did with Tim Poulton?" I said, "Yeah, I heard about it. Thank you." I retired. He goes, "Well, it's true." Joe already had all that understanding, but as soon as it's true, Tim, that like you're like the vampire that bit Joe Rogan and woke him up. No. I'm not just kissing your ass. That was the point. I told you that privately. That was the point.
But Tim, that Jack Dorsey moment was a corner shed moment that shattered the reality of a lot of people's understanding of how things work online. And you were there. You didn't fall for their traps. You went around their traps.
That was like
slapped them upside their head, and then they were like, they didn't know what they were doing.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.